RingCentral's AI receptionist uses voice AI to answer on the first ring, so you'll never miss a call again. In just a few minutes, you can personalize your own AI receptionist to answer questions, route calls, schedule appointments, and even send texts in multiple languages. Plus, it's easy to scale. Create unlimited AI receptionists across any phone system. It's all powered by one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, my little beautiful pink petunia pickle bottoms. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. I thought of that one in the shower today. I was like, what am I going to call her today? I think something about petunias and something about pink. And then I got to have another P for alliteration purposes.
Pink petunia pickle bottoms.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I like you. So how's your life going so far?
I'd say it's status quo. Our son is on the baseball team, which I think we mentioned. So he's got a lot of baseball playing going on.
It's a huge deal for us because he's tried so hard, and we never put him into any travel leagues like a lot of people do and stuff. So maybe we held him back a little bit. Maybe it's our fault, but man, he just worked super, super hard, and he made the team. And even if we talked about it again, we're going to do it again because we're so darn proud of him.
Yeah. So other than that, I'd say everything's going pretty smoothly. Knock on wood, that keeps going. But we were laughing because Mike is usually like, say Sunday, we want to treat ourselves, maybe pick up some bagels or get some coffees. Mike's always our runner. He's so sweet like that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to get away from the house. Then I don't have to listen to all your belly aching and stuff like that.
And he was like, what do you want? Some kind of latte bullshit or whatever. I hate to swear on this, and then you brought up the whole Larry David skit. If you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, and we're going to play that for you guys.
I'll take a mocha.
And I'll have a vanilla, one of the vanilla bullshit things. Whatever you want. Some vanilla bullshit, latte, kappa thing, whatever you got. I don't care.
You got it.
It's a cafe latte? Mm-hmm. What is that? Milk?
Milk
and coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
Milk and coffee. Who would have thought?
Milk and coffee.
Oh my God! What a drink!
You want to take off?
It's milk and coffee mixed together.
Let's do that.
You've got to go there, sit down, have a donut, have a bagel.
You absolutely. Every time I think of Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think of you because you just die laughing every time you watch Larry David.
Oh my gosh, I do. And my drinks are usually, I know we talked about it on one of the episodes where it's like, it can never just be, I always have to customize it because I find they put like 6 or 7 pumps of syrup in their drinks at Starbucks.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do maybe 2.
I don't know about you young folks, but as we get older, it's like things too sweet are just like, ugh. I always remember being a kid and being like, I will never be sick of sugar. Sugar is the best thing. It's so good. Everything sweet is so good. And I hear like older people be like, just like 1 packet of sugar. I'd be like, are they crazy? They're like basically saying, no, I don't want this good thing. But it's like now it's like, yeah, I get it. I don't know why.
And there's something about our parents, our baby boomers. Their generation is very proud of the fact that they just like classic coffee, just brewed, nothing fancy. So I know it's like my mom always laughs at how complicated the coffee drinks have gotten. Whereas in her day, it was coffee with a little bit of cream.
Yeah. And there's very basic things. And then technology happens. And then you realize there's better things out there. And it's like, oh, we just had vanilla and chocolate ice cream. And now there's strawberry and all sorts of things. You don't hear them saying that. They're going to have a nice banana milkshake every once in a while. That's crazy. Oh, boy. But it's kind of funny how people are. But it's a lot of times you just want like some kind of like, especially our son, he'll just take anything that's like one of the newer flavors. And speaking of new flavors, is that Dubai chocolate? Like everybody's talking about Dubai chocolate now.
Yeah, our daughter wanted to get it from Crumble, the cookie place. I don't know if it's outside of the country, but in the United States, it's like these really expensive big cookies. And they have flavors of the week. And this week is Dubai chocolate brownie. And it's like the hottest thing. You can't get it. And God forbid you got to get a hold of a Crumble cookie. They don't answer their phones. It was like 3:00 on a Friday. And I was calling to see if they're going to make more. When's a good time to try to get it? And it's like, I'm sorry, no one is available to take your call, but you can leave a message. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure that teenager behind the counter is going to call me back.
Allison, we're really showing that we're unks right now.
I don't care.
Okay, that's what the kids say for older people. Like, you're such an unk. And
I'm like, yeah, I actually am.
You sound like, especially somebody like, man, they don't answer the phones anymore. It's not like back in my day when we used to answer phones.
Well, no, it's not that, but there's no way to get a hold of them. Like, why have a phone if you're not going to answer it?
You're absolutely right. Customer service has gone down the old poop hole, and it's I think people just like don't want you to answer. Then they make these super annoying musical ditties that they're blasting like crazily.
Like on Crumble Cookie. It turns out there's like a reggae Crumble Cookie song that they play
And it's
on full volume.
Absolutely terrible.
So I got off the phone. I was like, oh, I think I have a bit of a headache.
And I've read articles where these companies purposely make horrible music so that you don't listen and don't want to stay on hold. And it's brilliant. I mean, I get it. And it doesn't sound like, it's not like thrash metal, like, break your ears, but it's like, it's bad.
It was pretty obnoxious. And then we've also been watching this guy on YouTube who I just stumbled across. If you like travel YouTube shows, his name is Simon Wilson and he's from the UK and I just love his accent. And it's kind of cool because he goes to places I've always wondered what it's like to travel to, like the Arctic Circle. Like I always say in my head, I would love to go up there. I would love to see what it's like to be dark all day or be light all day.
Yeah, and every time he gets out of the train, he's like, it is so cold. And I'm like, oh, cold in the Arctic Circle. How about that, Simon? Interesting. And then he goes up to his friends. He's like, it's so cold here, mate. And they're like, well, maybe try putting a hat and some gloves on.
In his defense, he did have a hat on. He just didn't have gloves on. But it was interesting about polar bears that they're the one animal that hunt humans. Like, of course, a lion or a tiger or whatever will kill you. You're not going to be their preferred source of food. Whereas a polar bear, they see you as just another food source.
So that's like an opportunity. You're walking by.
In their town, which is Svalbard, it's part of Norway. If you leave the town circle, it's illegal to not arm yourself with a weapon. You have to have a gun.
In case of a polar bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's kind of cool just watching those sort of things. And just, let's see, he goes on like a train in Pakistan, like 24 hours or something. And it's like, he got first class, but he's like sleeping with 6 people he doesn't even know. It's like wide open.
There was nothing first class about it.
No.
I just love travel. There's so many places I still want to go, but at least I get to experience it via Simon Wilson.
And this is way cheaper. All you got to do is watch
so much cheaper.
A couple YouTube ads and you're good to go. And now you don't need to go. And we love kind of talking about the things he always says. He's always like, look at that.
As I'm absolutely knackered.
Yeah, you guys talk good. I like it. We had our friends at Mortal Musings, the podcast. They asked to record their name because when they say the name of their podcast, Mortal Musings, you don't know what they're saying based on our accent. So I was like, Mortal Musings.
Mortal Musings. So
funny.
On that note, shall we dive into this cup of coffee?
Yep.
All right. So this is the deaths of Tom and Eileen Lonergan. So imagine taking, and this is promptly timed because we were just talking about traveling. So imagine taking a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Australia in order to scuba dive within the Great Barrier Reef to explore this otherworldly beauty of an underwater world.
We were just talking about how amazing that would be.
It would be amazing because we were just on a cruise and we were snorkeling in Grand Turk or whatever. And they had a reef, but nothing to the extent of what you would see in Australia. And we were just saying how that would be such a dream. So it's kind of timely. So now imagine that you break the surface of the water to realize in horror that the dive boat that took you to this location is absolutely nowhere to be seen.
Oh no, that's a super nightmare.
So I've heard of this story. I just had no idea of the details, so I just wanted to cover it. So you're now floating within the endless blue ocean. Your view reaches the horizon and there is nothing in between you and the horizon. There's not a soul. You feel disoriented. You swivel around to see if maybe the boat is behind you. But then the reality of your situation sinks in, and there's no denying the fact that you have been abandoned in the vast, shark-infested waters of the Coral Sea. So you're left with nothing to do but desperately hope and pray that the dive boat company will realize their terrible error and come back to save you. But now picture that hours are dragging by and the sun is setting and help never comes. So this sadly was the reality that Tom and Eileen Lonergan faced in 1998. So more than 27 years ago, in January of 1998, husband and wife of nearly 10 years, and that's also something weird to think about, that 1998 was almost 30 years ago. That's insane to me.
Impossible. I think it was 5 years ago.
It really feels like it. So husband and wife of nearly 10 years, this is 33-year-old Tom and 28-year-old Eileen Lonergan, they traveled to Australia to visit the Great Barrier Reef. So the couple met at Louisiana State University, where Tom was studying psychology and Eileen studied biology. And it was their mutual interest of the outdoors and maybe living outside the box that kind of brought them together. And they were eventually married in June of 1988. So the couple had only just completed a nearly 3-year tour with the Peace Corps. And it was really cool because they were teaching underprivileged children in Tuvalu. And this is an island country in the Pacific Ocean, halfway between Hawaii and Australia. They were also teaching over in Fiji. This is its neighboring island nation to the south. So their work in community development and education satisfied their desire to be within other cultures, and they were also making a positive impact in the world. So their work on the islands obviously brought them to the ocean. They were surrounded by water, and this enhanced their love of underwater exploration. I will tell you that Eileen, she had always had this love for scuba diving. It was her love that brought Tom on board, and they started kind of making this their hobby. So by early 1998, the couple was on a 3-month backpacking trip. So this is kind of how they ended their whole tour with the Peace Corps. They were going to take some time and go backpacking. They went in the South Pacific, Southeast Asia, and then they were planning to make Australia their final stop before they headed back to the United States to start their regular life again. Some sources indicate that they planned to settle down in Hawaii. Others indicated that they were going back to their home state of Louisiana. So they were looking forward to ending their trip by exploring, the best place in the world that you could ever go and dive.
Yeah, if you're a scuba diver, that's the pièce de résistance.
Yes, this is the place to go.
Creme de la creme.
You got it. It's like the grand finale.
Right.
Yes.
All those things.
All of those things. So they were going to the Great Barrier Reef. So just to give you a little bit of insight as to how vast this is. The Great Barrier Reef stretches almost 1,429 miles or 2,300 kilometers over an area of about 133,000 square miles, which is 214,000 kilometers.
Like once numbers get too big, it's almost imperceptible. It's like, but like just the miles part is crazy. Because like the reef that we went to was like, kind of nice-ish and a few miles long or whatever. And it's like, this is huge.
We live in Florida and we're from Chicago. It basically spans that long.
That's crazy.
It's insane to even wrap your head around. So the one within Australia, it's the largest coral reef system in the world. It's located off the coast of Queensland, Australia, in the northeastern portion of the country within the Coral Sea. And the reef is so expansive that it could easily be seen from outer space. Wow. It's made up of 3,800 individual reefs from the largest living structures on Earth. So on the morning of Sunday, January 25th, 1998, the couple left the Gone Walkabout Hostel in Cairns. This is where they were staying, and they boarded a BTS bus company bus for an hour-long drive that would bring them to the marina in Port Douglas, Queensland. So they paid $160 for a scheduled dive charter, and the boat they were going out on that day was called Outer Edge. This is a 12-meter boat that's licensed to carry at least 26 passengers. Some of the group going that day were novice divers and some were really experienced. So there was a range. So the boat was operated by skipper Jeffrey or Jack Narn and his 5 crew members who were taking the passengers out diving along 3 popular sites at St. Crispin Reef. This is about 38 nautical miles northeast of the port they were leaving from, Port Douglas. And just to give you a little fun fact, do you know what a skipper is?
Captain?
Yeah, so a skipper is a captain, but it's a much more like casual way of saying captain.
Yeah.
So it might be more like a dive boat situation. So they said that a captain is always a skipper, but a skipper isn't always a captain, is what I read. I was just interested in finding that out. So Tom and Eileen, they enjoyed 2 40-minute dives, and then they started their 3rd and final dive at a location that's known as Fish City. It's named because of its very active marine life. So according to local fishermen, this is Mick Bird, he had been out that day. He was only a few miles away. He said that the water was very active with sharks that day. He said every time they threw out a line, they would pull a shark in, which obviously they don't want to catch a shark.
No, you throw them back in.
So while some divers followed a dive master, those that were less experienced, Tom and Eileen, they were much more confident. So they were just going out on their own and doing their own exploration.
And if I could really quick, I've been out fishing with friends in Florida before, and we've caught sharks plenty of times too. Like you just get them hooked and there's like a little baby shark on the end of your line and you're just like, oh man, another shark. And I don't know what kind of shark. Like obviously the ones here in Florida are not nearly as dangerous as the ones in Australia, right. But it happens all the time.
Yeah. So British diver, this is Brian Brogden. He was also on the boat that day, Outer Edge, and he was kind of in the area of Tom and Eileen because he was a more experienced diver. And he said that while they were at Fish City, he himself was admiring this giant clam that was embedded in a reef. He was just looking out at this striking blue water that was just illuminated with these shafts of light that cut through the water. And I mean, I would imagine when you're there, you're just like, pinch me, because this can't be real.
You want to take in as much as you possibly can. This just sounds like an absolute dream. This just sounds amazing.
One day, I really do hope that we can do it. I guess we'll have to get scuba certified first.
That's the first thing.
First things first. So when Brogdon returned to the boat, Tom and Eileen chose to stay down a little bit longer, maybe than the crew had instructed. So when he last saw them, he said that they were just calmly swimming 12 meters or 39 feet down. That's another thing I like about Australia's scuba diving. It's not like this super, super deep water.
Yeah, hundreds of feet down, like no thanks.
No that's
interest.
Scary to
if
me.
I can't, if something goes wrong and I can't make it to the top, no.
Right.
I'm out.
So according to the boat's skipper, this is Jack, at about 3 p.m. when everyone was really told to be back on board at that point, he asked his dive masters, this is George Pyro and Kathy Traverso, to do what is mandatory in the scuba diving business, and this is a head count. And he was told that all divers were accounted for. However, George later claimed that he did inform Jack that only 24 of the 26 divers were accounted for during the head count that took place after this third and final dive of the day. So because 2 passengers apparently jumped back into the water after everyone had gotten on board, apparently Jack says, and 2 in the water makes 26, as he then counted these 2 swimmers twice. I will tell you, when this ultimately goes to trial, Jack denied that this conversation ever happened. He insists that had this been the case, he would have absolutely said that we would recount, just to be sure.
Yeah, he's going to say that. He doesn't want to get in trouble. Did Kathy have anything to say? Did she do a head count at all?
There was a lot of confusion about who did what.
Okay, well, if there's confusion, maybe stay.
And
right?
you stay and you do that count.
Yeah.
So none of the crew members could recall who was in charge of the diver's logbook that day, or who had done the first sets of head counts during the first dives of the day. And I don't know if it's because this is what they do day in and day out, and sometimes the days just kind of blend together and you're like, I don't remember who did it on that day.
Some weeks I have it, some weeks they have it, whatever.
Right. So they all later testified that it was standard practice to assume that a head count had been done if the boat's engines were started, because obviously you do not want spinning propellers when people are out in the water, and you do not want to abandon people when you're out on a dive. So from Fish City, Outer Edge made its way back to Port Douglas. Meanwhile, Tom and Eileen were still down diving, and they were left behind within the vast open water. So not only had a head count been done incorrectly, but no one seemed to notice that 2 sets of diving gear were missing. An inventory proved that the boat was missing 2 air tanks and 2 weight belts, but no one investigated further to see what the deal was with that.
So if George knew that they were too short, and then they find that there's 2 weight belts, George wasn't. I mean, I'm not blaming George, because maybe he tells the skipper, and the skipper's job is to do that. I don't know whose job it is.
The skipper is ultimately the one in charge of the boat, so ultimate blame will go on to the head of that.
That's the boss.
That's the boss. So I don't know how it is when they get back to port, if it's just a little chaotic and they're just kind of, you know how fishing boats are or diving boats. I've never been on a dive boat, but
you're when I go on dive boats.
I did do a lot of deep sea fishing off the coast of Clearwater, Florida, and it's a very casual atmosphere.
Well, sure, it's a boat in the water, but at the same time, you got to have these checks and balances.
Absolutely. So after the boat docked at Port Douglas and all the passengers disembarked, the crew noticed that there were 2 bags, as well as a pair of shoes that were still on the boat. One was in a plastic bag with the couple's dry clothing and Tom's glasses. The other was an empty dive bag where they would have likely put their wet clothes in. So sadly, the crew just assumed that a couple of divers accidentally left their things behind, and they figured they'd be back soon to collect them. And these items were then moved to another part of the boat, and they were simply forgotten. So Norm Steignant was the bus driver that was responsible for taking passengers back to their hostels or hotels that day. And this was supposed to happen sometime between 5:30 and 6 p.m., and this is when he realized that Tom and Eileen hadn't shown up, and he told his boss about this. He went off and wandered to see if maybe they were in the ice cream parlor or coffee shop. He looked in the hotel. He couldn't find them, so his boss called Outer Edge Dive Charters and spoke to who she believed was the owner, Jack. And the gist of the conversation was, don't really worry about it. Tell the bus driver to just go off on his way. So because of these multiple mistakes, and there were multiple mistakes, it started with the head count. It started with the missing dive gear, the bags that were left behind with Tom's shoes. These mistakes, are what cost this couple their life. And it's likely that when Tom and Eileen broke the water surface shortly thereafter 3 p.m., they would have realized in horror that they had been left behind. According to records, the sun set 4 hours later on that day in Port Douglas at 6:58 p.m. So the following day, when Outer Edge went back to St. Crispin Reef with a new set of divers, the crew was still completely unaware of their fatal mistake. While divers took in the beauty of the reef and underwater life, one diver did come across 6 dive weights that were resting at the bottom of the sea. So this was reported to Jack because apparently the diver brought them back up, and he didn't know the significance of these weights. So he described this as nothing more than a bonus. He's like, oh, sweet, what a score. So it's possible that at that very moment in time, Tom and Eileen could have still been alive. This was the passage of about 24 hours. They were maybe floating only a few miles away where they had drifted. Perhaps they used the empty dive belt to tether themselves together so that they wouldn't be separated. So on Tuesday, this is another day, the boat took a new group of eager divers to the reef, and on their second return, nearly 50 hours had gone by since the Lonergans were forgotten. So after they got back to the marina and the passengers once again disembarked from the boat, skipper Jack Narn realized that the unclaimed dive bags from Sunday were still sitting on the boat. He came across them. So as Jack opened the bags, he found a wallet and ID documents that included passports, as well as a shirt that Tom had been wearing on the day of his dive. So as he's sitting there looking into the bag and its contents, it is dawning on him that he has forgotten a couple that he had taken out with on Sunday. So he immediately reached for the phone. So 51 hours after Tom and Eileen were last seen, police confirmed that the couple had never returned to the hostel where they had been staying, and their credit cards had not been used. All their things were still inside the hostel untouched.
Oh my God. Can you imagine being the skipper and being like, oh man, and everything's coming down. You're like, oh, there was 2 people short. I'm finding these weights. There's, all of the bags.
Everything clicks into place.
Like, oh no.
I would throw up right then and there. So with this realization, there was a massive air and sea search that was carried out over the course of many days, but there was sadly no trace of the couple.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
RingCentral will completely transform the way you work. It gives you built-in AI across all your business conversations. Your phone system has an AI receptionist that answers calls 24/7. Your video meetings have AI that takes notes instantly. Even your contact center has AI, so you can help customers faster. It all comes together in one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
Not only were the Australian Navy and police involved in the search, but there was also 17 aircrafts, helicopters, and many, many locals who were kind and they jumped in their own boats to go out and look for them. So being left behind, it would not have been an immediate death sentence. Obviously, if a shark comes up and bites you, it is.
Sure.
But if you're left alone, it's not. So a man named Paul Lucas, he had been left behind on a dive boat in northern New South Wales, and this happened in January of 2000. And this is a point when he was a tourist that had less than 10 dives under his belt, so he wasn't overly experienced. But he ended up surviving for more than 40 hours inside stormy seas. So since Tom and Eileen were wearing inflatable life jackets, they could have inflated them using the air that was inside their tanks.
Oh, I was wondering because, when you're scuba diving, you don't have a life jacket on you, but that makes a lot of sense. I would have
Right. It's there in place if you need it. Obviously, you need to be pulled down, hence the dive belt with the weights attached to them. So in Queensland, under the blazing heat of the sun, with no fresh water to your disposal, someone floating in the center of the ocean would have succumbed to dehydration far quicker than one would on land. It's just like if you were in the desert and there's no shade available, you're going to dehydrate a lot quicker.
And also surrounded by salt, which
Right.
is dehydrating.
So 10 days after they were left behind, Tom's buoyancy jacket with his name that was neatly printed on the pocket was found 50 miles north of St. Crispin Reef, and there was no tank attached to it. Eileen's dive jacket marked with her name later washed ashore north of Port Douglas along with a tank that was still floating from the last remnants of air, as well as one of Eileen's fins. So things slowly but surely are starting to come to shore. None of their diving equipment suggested that the couple had met a violent end from a shark attack. Experts at the inquest speculate that they likely helplessly just drifted back and forth with the tides, quickly dehydrating under the powerful sun. There was a green and gray wetsuit that was in Eileen's size that washed up north of Queensland in early February, and scientists apparently measured the speed of barnacle growth on its zip, and it estimated that it was lost right around January 26. This is the day after the Lonergans went for their dive. So there were tears in the material around the armpit and buttocks, but it could have been easily caused by coral, but some speculate that a shark attack caused these rips. So investigators know for certain that the couple survived their first night in the water, as several months later, a fisherman who was 100 miles north of where they had been diving, he found a dive slate in a coastal mangrove swamp that documented their thoughts and proved their desperation as dawn broke on Monday morning. And so apparently this dive slate had a message on it that Eileen wrote. Do you know what a dive slate is?
No.
So a dive slate is a waterproof writing surface that's used by divers for various reasons. It might be that while you're out on a dive with someone else, you can communicate and write on it.
Oh, like you're down below and like say, hey,
Yeah.
look at this.
Exactly. Or if you're down there doing some kind of research, you can take notes on it. So this message on the slate read, Monday, January 26th, 1998, 8 a.m. To anyone who can help us, we have been abandoned on Agincourt Reef by MV Outer Edge, 25 Jan 98, 3 p.m. Please help us, come to rescue us before we die. Help, with multiple exclamation marks on it.
Man, they must have been so desperate.
So some wondered, did someone put this out in the water as a cruel hoax, or was this legit? So if it was legit, they did survive to Monday morning. So sadly, the bodies of Tom and Eileen Lonergan have never been recovered. There have been various theories as to their fate after the boat left the reef that emerged during the investigation, the inquiry. So this was the coroner's inquest. So in October of 1998, the coroner ruled that Tom and Eileen died at sea from either drowning, exposure, or shark attack. And they're theorizing that because they've never recovered their bodies. So they're saying sometime between 8 a.m. on Monday, and the reason why they're saying that is because that dive slate was recovered that proved they survived the night. So that would have been Monday, January 26, 1998, and sometime, which I didn't understand, between February 2nd, 1998. This would have been 8 days after they were left behind. So I did, of course, I work in a hospital as a dietitian, but there's different situations about dehydration. But about 2/3 of a person's body weight is water. And since every single cell in the body requires water to function, humans can only survive a short amount of time without water, far shorter than without food. The general rule of thumb is about 3 days, but of course that's depending on the conditions. So symptoms of dehydration begin with extreme thirst, fatigue, and ultimately end in organ failure because nothing can function without water. And then, of course, eventually death. So without water, the body cannot function, and it starts to cause a lot of complications. And what can result is you can get very confused, altered mental status. Then your kidneys start to fail, shock liver, low blood pressure because you don't even have enough water in your body to adequately pump. And then lactic acidosis, which is from an imbalance of pH in the body that ultimately leads to death. So Australian winters, they are opposite from the northern hemisphere. So summer is between, December through February. Winter's June through August. So they went out in January. So Tom and Eileen would have been exposed to the blazing sun in Queensland, where daytime temperatures average anywhere from 93 degrees or 34 degrees Celsius. So, of course, without fresh water, they might be potentially inadvertently consuming the salt water just by floating in the water, as well as the crystals, the salt crystals that can form on your exposed skin, which then evaporate in the sun and wind, which further increases the dehydration.
And I'm also thinking, as you're sitting there and you're super dehydrated, you're like, man, I just want some water. You're surrounded by water. So, eventually you're probably like, I'm just going to have a little bit from the sea. And then that's going to dehydrate you even more.
Right.
We all know that that's worse, but it's like maybe just a little, your brain's just craving the moisture somehow.
And it's not only that, but the dehydration can cause altered mental status. So in your right mind, you know that consuming salt water is only going to quickly dehydrate you. But if you're confused, you might have that thought process.
I'd be like, well, maybe I'll just try to go around the salt and just lick the water. I wouldn't do that. I know that's stupid, but in an emergency state, you have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, and this one thought kept coming back into my head during this research. It was that water everywhere and not a drop to drink. It's just so ironic that you're in water, but you're dying of dehydration.
Yeah, you could have lasted for weeks if you just get some water. It's
right.
So sad.
So as the inquest, a few months after the couple were left behind, Detective Sergeant Paul Priest spoke about what they found in the hostel where Tom and Eileen had been staying when they left for their dive. So he described finding leather-bound personal diaries with entries that he considered to be chillingly bizarre and prophetic, though he ultimately dismissed them as just the private thoughts of an introspective couple. So Tom wrote a passage in his journal on August 3rd, 1997. This was 5 months earlier. And he wrote, "Like a student who has finished an exam, I feel that my life is complete and I am ready to die. As far as I can tell, from here my life can only get worse. It has peaked and it is a downhill from here until my funeral."
Holy cow, that is depressing.
And keep in mind, he's only 33 years old. So I don't know if part of the thing is that for almost 3 years, they had been on these incredible islands in the South Pacific, Tuvalu and Fiji, and doing things outside of the box. And now he thinks, now we're going back to the United States to go to a 9-to-5 job, and this sounds awful.
Yeah, I could definitely get that. It's pretty depressing.
Right. I mean, sometimes when I come back from a 1-week vacation, I'm like, oh gosh, this sucks.
Working a job for the man sucks, man. It's just, I love my job as far as jobs are concerned, but I'd rather do something else.
Right. You're still tied to something that you have to get up at this time, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and if you don't say that, then there's probably something wrong with you.
So 2 weeks before their final dive, Eileen then wrote an entry. This was on January 9th, 1998. And she wrote, "Tom hopes to die a quick," and she wrote painly, but they believe that she meant to write painless. So Tom hopes to die a quick and painless death, and he hopes it happens soon. Tom's not suicidal, but he's got a death wish that could lead him to what he desires. And I could get caught in that. I mean, that is kind of an interesting thing to write when you're 28 and 33 years old.
Who's writing that? That's nobody would be writing that normally. There's definitely something interesting there. I mean, it's a little off, I would say. I mean, we're all a little off, I suppose.
Sure, of course. And
it's really interesting.
Some people are deeper thinkers and whatever.
Yeah, the reason I probably don't think that I've only, I'm now thinking about myself. Can my life get any better? It's like, oh, yeah, sure it can. But there is a point where you might think I've done everything I ever wanted to do. What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you travel a lot. I mean, there's 1,000,001 places I would still like to see, one of them being the Great Barrier Reef. So I feel like if I died today, I'd be cheated because I still want to go see all these places.
And that's why I keep you grounded. We don't go to see these places, so there's always something better out there.
So as word of these entries became public knowledge, of course, then rumors started to swirl around that maybe Tom could have been responsible for a murder-suicide. Another twist came from the captain of another dive boat who visited the reef one day after the Lonergans were left behind, and he told investigators that the head count on his return trip on his dive boat was several over the number that they left with, and they couldn't understand why. He also said that he heard American voices among the all-Italian group that was on board that day.
That's crazy.
So this made people wonder if maybe the Lonergans staged their own disappearance by intentionally staying under the water while the dive boat sped off without them on the afternoon before and then later boarded with this group of Italians. So to add fuel to this fire and this idea, dozens of people ended up contacting investigators to say that they had seen Tom and Eileen out and about in various places around town, and they were familiar with their faces because of the news coverage about this case. So
that is absolutely, I'm just kind of speechless because that's fascinating. That's a real possible thing because these people are doers, right? They're not afraid of going out and doing the things they've always wanted to do. And then the weird stuff about writing that, you know, he wanted to die, like a death wish at 30. Like that's like, you got to get checked out if you're actively writing those things. But this guy's like, oh, we can kind of stage our own death and then just kind of live on our own life. And like,
why couldn't they do that without staging their own death?
Because they'll still be attached to everything they've already always had. Like this would almost be starting a new life.
I mean, they were out traveling in the South Pacific for 3 years, not traveling, you know, they were working out. Like, so obviously they do things differently. It's just like I was talking about that girl who lives in the van life that I follow on Instagram. Like, people sometimes choose to live outside the box of the 9-to-5 job and this and that.
Well, yeah, because like who says that this is how it needs to be, right?
Right. And who would have dictated that they couldn't continue to do whatever it was that they were going to do?
Especially in the age of technology. Like I almost have sorry to get off track here, but like in 20 or 30 years, like in a couple generations, it might be normal just to make just enough to get by again.
100%.
You know, whereas now we're in a consumer, you know, society, but like it might just be like, you know, getting a little house somewhere and getting some electricity and internet, and then just paying for that. And like no like cars, like no extravagant things.
Right.
You know?
I mean, if you still need a car to get from point A to B, fine, but don't make it a $90,000 car. And that's why I'm very fascinated with the whole tiny house living, because I would rather live to do things and travel and see the world and experience things than pay for a $3,000 or 3,000 square foot home where only 1,200 square feet of the home are being used.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at our home. Like, we still have Formica countertops in our kitchen. Like, there's no granite, there's no quartz in here. So
yeah, if ever I'm like, man, we should probably update things. Mike's like, why?
I
We
guess
could
you
take
don't.
a trip.
I guess you don't want to go on vacation to Italy.
And it's like, no, I want both.
No.
But the whole point is that Tom and Eileen could have done. They could have marched to the beat of their own drum. Nobody was stopping them from doing that.
Yeah.
They would have had no reason to disappear. They weren't felonies or what's
Felons. You said too many letters. That's okay.
Sometimes I just can't speak.
They weren't felons.
I say words the wrong way.
That's okay.
One of our listeners had commented that twice I said switch the flip.
Yeah, I noticed it as I was editing. I was like, God bless her.
God bless me. I don't know what's wrong with me.
They love that.
But it's not like they were felons who were hiding out somewhere or they had hits on them or something.
Yeah, this reminds me of like conspiracies. Like you can, if you come up with the final ending already before you have any evidence for it, then it's way easier to prove that. Whereas like the scientific method is you have evidence first and then you decide something.
So Detective Priest insists that the investigation did not turn up in what he said was one iota of evidence that Tom and Eileen planned either their own death or disappearance. While they remained underwater, enjoying the vast beauty of this dive spot, and of course they knew they were only there for a short period of time, can you get caught up in the beauty of a coral reef and forget, oh crap, the boat is leaving at around 3? Of course you can. So, you know, while
also really quick, when we went on our snorkeling adventure recently for our cruise, I remember being out there and like they only give us 15 minutes or something. I was like really mad because we paid a good amount of money for this. I'm like, I'm going to be out here a little longer. I'm not coming back yet. You can't leave without me. And meanwhile, you're researching this case. We're like, Mike, we got to get back. Come on.
This case was already researched. So I said, get your ASS back on that boat.
Yeah, and I was like, listen, lady, I make my own rules. And you're like, they're gonna leave without us. I'm like, okay, fine, let's
Now
go.
it was nothing compared to this story because we could see the island where our ship was tethered to and all of that.
And they could see my fat head floating out of the water.
It's just that this is so much. This is 38 nautical miles out from coast. Ours was not like that.
Right.
So there would have been no way that they could have anticipated that the boat's crew would have miscounted the divers, because by, standard practice, before you leave a dive spot, you get that accurate head count. How could they have ever known that was going to be miscounted?
I mean, this guy should never be a captain or skipper again.
Right. So not only that, but their money and their passports were left behind. They had not utilized their bank accounts after they disappeared. They also could not have anticipated that this other dive boat that they allegedly boarded with a group of Italians would have been out that next day in that same location where they just so happened to float to.
I mean, you probably can if you do enough research, especially nowadays. You can put maps of where GPSs are and stuff like that.
This is 1998.
Correct. Back then.
And you don't have control over the current of the sea,
right,
and where it's going to push you and where you're going to end up floating.
Do you want to take that 24-hour risk of possibly being eaten by a shark?
No. So in October of 1998, skipper Jack Narn was charged with manslaughter after he failed to ensure the safety measures were carried out on the vessel that he was responsible for. I don't care whose job it was to do the head count that day. You are in charge of this boat. And ultimately, these mistakes led to the deaths of Tom and Eileen Lonergan. So during the trial, which began on November 8th, 1999, defense attorney Graham Houston argued that it was possible that the couple feigned their disappearance and faked their deaths, obviously referring to the journal entries.
It's also possible a UFO came and picked them up and blasted them off to outer space.
Right. So this was just an idea that utterly disgusted Eileen's grieving father, John Haynes. He also suggested a planned joint suicide and suggested that Tom killed Eileen and then he killed himself. I mean, that to me is just so far-fetched.
Couldn't possibly just be a lazy skipper who forgot people.
Right. So 9 witnesses were called to testify, and they claimed that they had seen Tom and Eileen in Queensland during the days that followed their disappearances, which made people further believe that they had gotten back on land and were just laying low. So there were questions as to why the couple would have removed their buoyancy vests, which ultimately did wash up to shore, and their tanks, which would have helped them stay afloat while they remained at sea. The Great Barrier Reef is home to several species of predatory sharks. While there's, obviously their supplies that did wash up did lack visible teeth marks on their equipment. So this suggests that they likely did not succumb to a shark attack. So one day, or on the day that they were left behind, the sea was described as extremely calm, glassy, and warm. So then some people were wondering why this young, fit couple wouldn't have just swam safely back to shore.
Like, what'd you say, 27
It was like
miles?
almost 40.
40, so that's crazy. That's a super far. How long would that take? Like, did you look up like any times or anything?
No, because it depends on the currents.
Yeah, and obviously the current, and you have to be actively swimming, so you're sweating more, so you're going to like dive faster. That's a long, long distance. Like,
exactly.
I mean, running, which it's way slower to swim than run, and it's way more exhausting to swim than run. Like running would take if you were a marathon runner, like 7 hours or something like that. Like that's crazy. So this would take at least 24 hours of constant swimming.
And not to mention, would they be so disoriented that they wouldn't even know which direction was land?
That's the first thing I thought. I'd look at the sun and try to see which way do we come from.
True.
Like somebody like you might not know which direction that we had to go.
Well, I know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west.
Yeah, but would you know? Like, I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm saying, like, would you register which way you'd have to swim, like based off of the land and everything, if you were by yourself?
Right. Well, I know, like, if I'm on St. Augustine coast in Florida, I'm on the East Coast, so I'm going to get the sunrise there. But would that help me? I don't know.
It's okay. Don't worry. No. It's you'd have me with you. I'd help you out. We'd be good.
Yeah,
we would die
sure.
together. It'd be fun.
So, like I said, the sea was very peaceful and calm, but 40 miles in water, give me a break. So the other thing was people were questioning why wouldn't they have flagged down another tour or fishing boat, but maybe they weren't close by. So there was also well-lit diving platforms and coral outcrops within swimming distance of Fish City. So this is something that they were likely unable to see because you're floating down at the water surface. There's only so much you can see.
Yeah.
So these platforms are present for boats to tie up to in order to drop off snorkelers. But according to an investigator, the Lonergans would have had to swim 3.7 miles or 6 kilometers to the nearest refuge. And this was a pontoon that was anchored in Agincourt Reef across a likely very strong current which would have made it possibly impossible for them to get to. But how would they have even known it was there?
Like, even if they had an active GPS in their hand, it'd still be kind of hard to find, right?
Right.
So it's like, imagine finding it just randomly. Like, that's insane. You can also say, they should have just built a boat. You know, they should have built a boat and they should have gotten it and then made a sail out of something, scuba gear, and then gotten back. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because these are American tourists that have absolutely no idea that this pontoon boat is tethered 3.7 miles in this direction. Why would they ever know that? So it's unlikely that they discarded their tanks immediately, their oxygen tanks, since they likely expected that the boat would soon get back to shore, realize its error, and then come back to get them. It's theorized that as the sun began to set and it became obvious that no one had found their mistake and that they had been forgotten, they may have dropped their tanks at that point. So had the tanks been full, they would have sunk depending on the type of tank used. So when an aluminum tank is full, it will sink, but it floats when empty. Meanwhile, steel tanks remain negatively buoyant and sink when full or empty. I will tell you, in my research, when one of the tanks was recovered, it was said to be floating with remnants of air. So their tanks may have floated. So as Monday passed, they would have become very dehydrated at this point in time. And then, of course, the sun is rising again. It's getting hotter. They're getting more exposure. They may have become delirious, which then caused them to take off their buoyancy vests. It's also possible that they took their vests off before this for better range of motion if they were going to try to swim, had they been attempting to swim to shore. Their wetsuits would have provided a degree of flotation as well. And of course, they're in salt water, which helps you to float, hence the reason why they need these weight belts to get down. So their likely cause of death, based on all the circumstances here, was likely dehydration. They could have just fallen asleep and drowned. A shark may have attacked them, causing damage to Eileen's wetsuit, but they don't think that that was the case. So Jack testified that as the new owner of the boat, he accepted responsibility for leaving the couple behind, but he argued that he had delegated responsibility for diver safety to his experienced crew that he inherited when he took over this boat. And he placed the blame on George and Kathy for miscounting the divers.
Good skipper, placing blame on the people under you. Good job.
So some question the truth of a head count being done in the first place. Was it done at all at this third dive site? Because one of the passengers, Richard Triggs, he was another diver on the boat that day. He said, I do not recall there ever being any kind of head count done that I saw.
Yeah.
Is it possible he missed it?
Right. Yeah. They might just do it quietly. It's
right.
Like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Yeah, they want to get out of there as soon as they can.
But then there was that comment that they said, 2 in the water makes 26. So I don't know. So Jack Narn was ultimately found not guilty, though his company, this is Outer Edge Dive, they pleaded guilty to negligence and were fined. So the company soon went out of business because of their legal debts, as well as just the bad press that they received for leaving 2 people behind, which led to their deaths.
Yeah.
So publicity surrounding this case made a potential for disaster within the Queensland dive industry. They were worried because nearly 50,000 people are employed within the Queensland $4.3 billion Barrier Reef tourist trade, which is set to host nearly 4 million day trips annually. Like, that is a lot of people going out to dive.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's a beautiful place to see. So because Tom and Eileen's deaths were avoidable, the state of Queensland issued regulations for dive operations. So they wanted to make it a highlight that they reinforce how operators should be conducting head counts, because people get lazy when they're doing the same thing day in and day out, and they're doing the head count and it always lines up. But you have to understand that if you are taking people out, you have to bring them back.
Yeah, that's pretty basic.
And when they're underwater, you can't see them. So a head count is so incredibly basic, but so incredibly important. Not to mention, when people are out doing scuba diving or snorkeling, it can worsen medical conditions. So a person who has a heart issue, might get a little panicky or something like that. And they might have a medical event, and you might then have to do a body recovery if they die while they're underwater. These are just really important things that have to be done each and every time, no matter how often you do it and how mundane it is. So unfortunately, Tom and Eileen, they were not the first people that were left behind during a dive, and they have certainly not been the last. I mentioned that one guy that was abandoned in stormy seas for 40 hours. So recently, two brothers, this is Ian Kensington and Ryan Chawrey, they were left off the coast of Perth while they were diving off of a 12-meter catamaran called Wildcat. This happened as recently as Sunday, March 2nd, 2025. So just like Tom and Eileen, they were underwater. They were out for about 35 minutes, and then they heard a nearby boat engine start while they were underwater. As the vessel moved away, they reported being aggressively pushed back because of the propellers. And when they surfaced, they saw their boat, Wildcat, heading back to shore.
He's like, see you later.
What the F?
Well, guess we're here now.
So despite the fact that they frantically waved, screamed, they used strobe lights. Of course, it was daytime, so the strobe light probably wouldn't have been very visible. The boat just continued on to shore without them. So the brothers felt very vulnerable to attempt to swim back to shore due to the shark activity, paired with the fact that they just felt they were too far offshore. So they activated what is known as an ankle-mounted shark shield. It's a deterrent device, and then they shed all non-essential equipment. So a shark shield is an electronic device that creates this powerful three-dimensional electrical field around a person that overpowers a shark's highly sensitive electroreceptors, which I think is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So it's estimated that they were left at sea for maybe 40 to 60 minutes. But of course, while you're there, you don't know if anyone's realizing their mistake. So those 40 to 60 minutes probably felt like hours.
Yeah, you're planning like to be here long term.
So then they saw the Rottnest Island ferry heading in their direction. And thankfully, they were able to scream and wave frantically, and the boat, spotted them.
Thank God.
So as the boat, this ferry boat, is getting ready to load these guys onto their boat, the Wildcat dive boat all of a sudden cruises on over and goes, oh yeah, we're here to pick up our divers. They were like trying to act like they hadn't just forgotten them.
Well, yeah, because they're going to get in major trouble because they know this story has happened. Like, we're not going to be on the news for this because then our whole company is going to go under.
Right. And apparently then the one guy got on the ferry boat, the other guy got on Wildcat from what I read, and he hit his head in the process.
I would not go on Wildcat again.
I'd be like, F off.
I would take to the internet and make several videos about how nobody should take Wildcat ever.
So the brothers have since secured lawyers to represent them, claiming that Perth Diving Academy, or PDA, provided no duty of care either during their dive or after, and described the boat separation as nothing more than negligence. So in 2003, the movie Open Water was released and is based loosely off of Tom and Eileen's case. Have you seen that movie?
No.
I have seen it. So it's about a vacationing couple from America who were stranded during a dive within shark-infested seas off of the Bahamas, is what the basis of the movie is. So during the movie's filming, the lead actors, this is Blanchard Ryan and Daniel Travis, they spent more than 120 hours in the water, 31 miles or 50 kilometers off of Barbados is where it was actually filmed. So they were floating for all these hours in this water that was very active with marine life. This included bull sharks and gray reef sharks.
I was wondering if they did it like in a studio or not, but
No.
They did it actually pretty close to the same thing, like 30 miles off the coast.
They did, and they put cameras on buoys in a lot of instances so that it was bobbing and they were almost at the same level as them in the water to really give you that feel.
Yeah.
So how they protected their actors was they wore chainmail under their wetsuits, which is basically like chain mesh. In order to protect themselves, God forbid they did get bit by a shark.
Yeah, you'll get bit and it'll probably make it through a little bit, but you won't lose a limb.
Right. I mean, you'll be severely bruised and traumatized.
That's how I would like to have a shark bite. Like, I don't want to get like my limb ripped off or anything, but like a little tooth mark.
You're insane.
I just want a little tooth mark. I don't know why.
Don't wish for things like that.
I want a tiny shark bite, just tiny one, little one.
That's so scary. I'm sorry. Sharks just don't go like, oh, nibble nip.
Like
all right, I'm going to go swim away. No.
Somebody
they
had
get
a
a
pet?
sense of your flesh and blood, and then they attack.
Oh, you're a shark expert. That's
I
really
am.
interesting. Okay, tell us more. Yeah, that's good. I got to ask you more.
I'm sorry. I know how sharks work, and they get a little taste of blood. They want more.
Oh,
I've watched
you know
Finding Nemo.
Yeah, you know plenty. That is. We'll talk about it after the show.
What do they say? No, that's a different part. I was thinking of a bird's got a
Birds got to swim, fish got to eat, or birds got to eat, fish got to swim, fish got to swim, birds got to eat.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the shark. But I have seen Finding Nemo, and I saw Bruce the shark. He wanted that meat.
Yeah, he did.
So do not wish to have any sort of shark bite.
Fish are friends, not food.
So not only that, but the filmmakers, they manipulated the shark's movements by throwing chunks of bloody tuna into the water as an alternative food source to draw the sharks away from the actors in the water.
I thought they were like chumming the water. Like, come on, we want to see some sharks.
No, they were taking them away from them. So Eileen's father, John Haynes, he doesn't hold ill will against the crew and passengers of the Outer Edge, which he's a better person than I am because I'd want to shake Captain Jack.
Well, obviously they don't want to leave people there to die.
But they did.
They did, right.
So, I mean, it was just a completely unavoidable, 2 people died. So he sees that his daughter-in-law's deaths are nothing more than a tragic accident. And understandably, he struggles to come to terms that their bodies have never, ever been recovered. But he says, I suppose that we have the Great Barrier Reef, and they're part of that. And that is the sad and tragic deaths of Tom and Eileen Lonergan.
That's actually a good way to look at it because a reef is a living thing. It feeds, then it's feeding, their bodies are, giving nutrition to the things around it, I suppose. But
and, they died doing something that they loved. Yeah. But regardless, they were 33 and 28 years old with their entire lives ahead of them.
And Tom wanted to die, so.
Yeah, but something you write in a quiet, private moment in your diary isn't necessarily true, per se.
Like, I wonder if you could talk to him like afterwards and be like, so is this kind of what you had in mind? I wonder if he'd be like, yeah, I'm good with it.
I just think maybe it was just the whole 3 years being in the South Pacific and thinking, oh gosh, I got to go back.
Right. Yeah, that's really sad. Well,
it's very sad.
Thank you so much for telling their story. It's very much appreciated. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate you. If you can go ahead and click the plus button on whatever platform you listen to us on so you can get a notification of the next episode. We got plenty of bonus episodes too. Go get yourself on the link in the show notes.
Absolutely. We're here for you and we've got the extra content. If you want it, you come and we will open our arms and say, welcome to the Crime and Coffee Couple Club.
You won't actually get that message, but it'll be virtual. So just imagine us saying that.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate the heck out of each and every one of you. We hope that you have a great week. And until next time, bye.
RingCentral's AI receptionist uses voice AI to answer on the first ring, so you'll never miss a call again. In just a few minutes, you can personalize your own AI receptionist to answer questions, route calls, schedule appointments, and even send texts in multiple languages. Plus, it's easy to scale. Create unlimited AI receptionists across any phone system. It's all powered by one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.